the factual claims of politicians and various other experts in society. To a certain extent, the UP School of Economics has been doing this quite successfully, I think, by evaluating certain policy options, legislation, and other issues that are important. I think that every department in the university is in a position to do that. Every faculty member and every student is in a position to do that. Remember, this is the century of blogging, and blogging is free. Through blogs, you can make your voices heard on practically anything. You know? And then the reach is not just the campus, actually. It's not just Filipinos within the Philippines itself, but 9 million Filipinos who live in 197 other countries in the world, you know? and many other people in the rest of the world. This is very, very important, I think. No? And we have not quite methodically explored the options that are open to us, or that have been open to us precisely by the advances in communications technology. This is what I mean about democratization and social relevance of the university. It's not just democratization of admissions.
Now is now ready to give its question. Will the moderator introduce himself, please, and the question?
I am Professor Rainy Katrina of the University of the Philippines, Mindanao. Good afternoon, Professor David. A question here from a student. If UP has begun non-market favored strategies, including university wealth, why it burdened its students today of an increased tuition and other fees? What can you say about it?
Can you please repeat it?
I will read the question. If UP has begun non-market favored strategies in creating university wealth, why has it burdened its students today with the increase in tuition and other fees?
I did not mean to say that UP must create its wealth from the tuition paid by its students. I think there is very little wealth that you can draw from that source. You know? The amount of tuition that is paid every year, I think even under the new tuition levels, is so minuscule compared to the budget of the university that sometimes I wonder, I mean, looking at it from the perspective of somebody who has not lived in Quezon Hall, you know, I sometimes wonder why we need actually even to incite the anger of our students by raising tuition, because there's really very little you can get from tuition. Now, the only justification, in my view, for increasing tuition is if the increased tuition, a large portion of it, goes to paying and subsidizing the education of those who could not pay otherwise tuition in the university. To me, that is the only real justification for raising tuition. It is not even to raise the salaries of faculty members like myself. I would feel very bad, actually, as a teacher, if any increase that I enjoy in my salary as a faculty member were partly drawn from the increased tuition to be paid by my students.
UP Cebu, the moderator is Professor Maria Rosario Ballescas. Please come in and you can state your question.
Hello, good afternoon. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Cherry.
This is our question, please. As we move towards the future, there is an urgency that we have to move together in unity as a whole system. So may we know how you view the role of the constituent universities as we move towards a modern world?
Right. That's an excellent question, Cherry. Thank you. If you examine the history of the different units of the university, which I did in preparation for this lecture, you know, I realized that the formation of the constituent units at various campuses of UP was dictated by politics. Every governor who thought that he owed his constituency something university education, wanted to bring a piece of UP into his province. Every congressman who fancied himself as a sponsor of higher education wanted a piece of UP in his own district. No? That is why we had a UP in Tarlac, subsequently closed now. No? In other words, the first UP, interestingly, the first 3 colleges of UP were colleges that were determined along functional lines. First, you needed to produce doctors. That's why we set up College of Medicine in the Ermita Eran area. Second, you needed to have well-trained farmers in order to open up the forests and the lands and improve agriculture in the Philippines. That is why we set up the College of Agriculture, not in Manila, because there would be no farms in Manila, but rather in Los Baños. Third, I don't know why we had the School of Fine Arts, but I am glad that we had the School of Fine Arts. Huh? Do you know where it was? It was in the heart of Quiapo, where all the artisans and craftsmen of Manila operated. And at that time, the first real professors were the highly trained artists, painters and sculptors trained in Europe. And that is why everybody wanted to study at their feet. Do you know how many people they had in the School of Fine Arts on its opening in 1909? 785 students. I don't think that the School of Fine Arts ever had that number at any other time in its history. No? That is why they had to reduce enrollment. What am I saying? Initially, at its founding, the placement of the units was along functional lines. Later on, all the branches of UP were not along functional lines, but along political lines. All right? That's why you had Cebu, which is very influential. You had Iloilo. You had Tacloban. I mean, no offense to our colleagues in Tacloban, no? But if there were no Imelda Marcos in Leyte, you would not have a UP Tacloban, no? Now, given this situation now, we have these different campuses, which initially were not placed there on the basis of functions, but rather on the basis of political goals. What can we do? I believe that what we should do is precisely what is being done in Iloilo. In order to establish, to rebuild these branches of UP now, these units, along functional lines. UP has got to differentiate internally along functional lines in order to survive, no? Which means, therefore, that UP Baguio has got to ask itself, apart from being in Baguio, no? Just many problems, I think garbage among them, I heard. No? I'm not suggesting that you should have a garbology department, no, but it would not hurt anybody, no, to do that. But I'm saying, Baguio has always been the center for ethnic studies, I think, no? For the indigenous peoples. No? That is, to my mind, a function, a kind of specialization that can be performed by only one other unit of the university. That's UP Mindanao. No? And I know that Baguio has had a long tradition of research along these lines. It can be more fully developed, to my mind. No? The same thing is true for Tacloban, and I don't know what specialty Tacloban has at this point, or UP Cebu. UP Cebu might imagine itself as the center of an alternative type of urban development, no? In Cebu. I mean, there are plenty of things that, well, in summary, what I'm saying is that given the fact that we are where we are, we have to reinvent ourselves along functional lines. That's what I'm saying. You know, in the past, I was an opponent to splitting colleges along functional lines. But I was assigned the very difficult task, and I felt really bad about splitting the College of Arts and Sciences, where I studied, sometime in the 1980s, into 3 separate colleges: arts and letters, social science and philosophy, and the natural sciences. But I'm afraid that that could not be helped. But look at College of Science now. It has also functionally differentiated internally. So you have Institute of Physics, Chemistry, and so on and so forth. That is the thrust of the future. Any university that fails to differentiate itself, its internal structures, along functional lines, I don't think will survive. I have seen it abroad. The University of Wellington in New Zealand used to be one of the biggest universities in that part of the world. When I last visited Wellington, it was just a very thin shadow of its old self. Most of its functions, the university has shrunk, in other words. Many other universities in Australia, in New Zealand, in Europe have all shrunk. Many of their functions taken over by polytechnic colleges. That is the trend of the future. I don't think that we can escape it. Since we cannot escape it, we have to prepare ahead, so that hindi tayo may iwanan, and we can still exert some influence, even on many units of our university that have declared their autonomy. I mean, it is a good thing to my mind that we have an autonomous setup. It will be the beginning of a multiversity, which is so appropriate to a complex global society.
Thank you, Professor David. Now we have a question from UP Manila. Their moderator is Dr. Lilian Lalatsliagas. Please come in, UP Manila.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Professor Buenalina Ramos from the College of Public Health, University of the Philippines, Manila. Allow me to read a question from the audience. Please elaborate more on how we can become a university of the people. What kind of changes in the university policies, in attitudes, in mindsets of the leadership of the university, faculty, and students to make us a real university of the people?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. First, let me answer that question by stating something that I implied in my paper. We often think of universities as performing